Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Price, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the third volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesis adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Viz, Laura Hamstra as Eli Sharp, and Borovic as Morgan Rolls. My report shows that the Inquisitorial Band have sent a team to explore the Iron Kestrel. Eli launched the cable that got the boarding party across, and Attikus's power fist made the entryway. Meanwhile, Valentyne learned more about Cainhurst's xenos interests, and Morgan stuck to the shadows and went unseen. What scuttled the Iron Kestrel, and why did its captain shoot herself? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
Help me. Help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. Repeating message recorded from the Iron Kestrel. Eli and Attikus, you have found yourselves in a small ship floating stationary on the edge of a large asteroid field. The Iron Kestrel was a bounty hunter vessel that you've received a alarming communication of help me from. And you've, after firing a harpoon over and making your way across, Attikus knocking on the door, as it were, the two of you found yourselves within the small ship. You've been tasked by Inquisitor Valentyne with ascertaining what the dealio is. And
his words,
his words, exactly, yes. It's very...
Like the dealio on the world, the system, and the ship.
That's right. The Emperor loves delios. So
we're in the Delio system, and I require to know what the Delio is.
Yes, there's no star charts, just Delios. So you're aboard the ship. There is a limited amount of atmosphere after punching through one of the sort of remaining emergency systems. Just basically like almost sprayed foam, a hardening foam across the gap. So again, things are floating, but there's still a limited amount of sort of atmosphere within the ship. You can see one of the four crew members sitting in the captain's chair. She has shot herself in the face, or so it would seem. Yeah. In one hand is a knockoff bolt pistol, and in the other is just a delicious looking bottle of amber Amersec, the first you've seen, Eli, since taking off.
Yep. Eli clocks it, and it will be what he grabs just before they leave.
Okay, great. Attikus, can you please roll me a perception? Eli, what is your... I'm going to say, what is your willpower score?
Willpower 3.
3. Okay, so it's going to be difficulty 3, Attikus. Okay. And basically we're rolling to determine whether you notice... honestly, it's less whether you notice, and it's more like how obvious was Eli noticing this. I think Attikus is generally a fairly astute guy, and I think when it comes to, matters of mission, I don't expect you to solve like a spot the differences puzzle, but
okay, good, because the cunning is not the strong statistic on this character sheet.
Yeah, I honestly just feel like this kind of moment is something you would have seen in the barracks a lot, or on the battlefield a lot. It's literally just someone trying not to show that they noticed something, which you've sure. become quite accustomed to. And, as part of your interrogator training, it's vitally important to the Inquisition. So difficulty of 3. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you a setback because you're wearing a stupid space helmet, and you are not a man accustomed to stupid space helmets.
Yeah, those little blue lights. Your glasses underneath the helmet, too, because you can't, reach up and adjust your glasses. You've got the visor, and, it's airtight.
Yeah, it's just me trying to adjust my glasses in VR, or just punch myself in the face in a variety of interesting ways. Yeah. Okay, so one setback for that. I think that's it on my end.
Yep, I'm comfortable to roll this.
And I believe story point wise, we are still sitting at 2 and 3. I think we both burned one last round.
Last time, yeah.
We remain at 2 and 3 in my favor.
Okay. Rolling. 2 failures, 1 threat.
Fuck yeah.
All right.
You don't notice a goddamn thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Your eyes fell out in space. You're just Sam Neill at the end of Event Horizon. Your eyes are just X'd out, and you're like, I'm going to run a farm. I don't remember much about Event Horizon. Morpheus was there. So Eli, given the threat that came in on that roll, I'm going to say that you get a boost when you attempt to boost the liquor on the way out. Cool. All right. Well, that incredibly intense, necessary, plot important roll out of the way. To refresh your memories, since it's been a couple days since we recorded, small ship. It's kind of a large one-room ship. You can think the Quinjet in the Avengers. You can think a Pelican in Halo, but slightly larger.
Yep.
From the outside, again, very ramshackle. Inside, just kind of a large room, or the Milano from Guardians. But if that lounge area was part of the Fortnite as well.
Yeah.
In the back, there are 2 cargo sealed cargo containers, essentially, almost like standing storage closets that can be used to haul storage of some sort. Otherwise, there's sort of a ready room table, small kitchenette. You can see a sealed off bathroom. There are bunks just kind of nestled into the wall. It seems they all kind of sleep in open space. And then up front, we've got a very kind of Star Trek shuttle kind of situation where there's the captain's chair and then just a bunch of consoles for various other things. You do still have comms back to the Marnie song.
Right.
What would you like to do?
Get started on what we're here for, which is gaining information. So seeing if it's possible. Is there any power at all that we've noticed? Or
yeah, so there's currently there's the minimum, you'd say almost like emergency power save mode. So enough that it can convey the message, enough that they're probably small, not even those industrial emergency lights, but just small, almost night lights throughout the cabin. Casting dim illumination over panels and things. Eli, I think what this would indicate to you is that once the person in the captain's chair killed themselves, the ship likely after some time of no activity dropped to power save. But there's certainly still enough power that it was able to foam cover the hole you punched. So probably easy enough to get power back online. You're not sure how long that'll last, but
all I need to do is access data banks, transfer stuff to a data slate, and get off.
Cool. All right. So Eli, then you're looking at powering up the ship to access the logs. Attikus, what would you like to do?
We are aware that this was a crew of 4, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And we've only seen one person. So Attikus would be looking for the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Whether they're corpses or whether they're hiding.
Realistically, we should probably both do that for safety first.
Right.
And cover
that makes
each
sense.
other.
That would be something that people that are good at their jobs, our characters, would do. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. So let's make this a...
do a little 2x2 throughout the ship.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think this is probably just a... perception. I would normally I'd want an investigation type thing. It's not really skullduggery. I would take streetwise or perception.
What about vigilance?
Vigilance is generally meant to be more of a reactive reactive skill. So if, for example, if you were worried something was going to jump out at you and you kind of soft focused it, then I'd be like, hell yeah, vigilance. So if you're hunting a xenomorph on this ship, it'd be drop into vigilance and see what pops out.
Fair.
But
okay.
For just digging around, I don't know that it would help you too much.
So just perception.
Okay.
You too, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so both of you are going with perception?
Yeah, it's the same stats for me from streetwise and perception. So
Gotcha. Okay. So we're going to go with difficulty of 2. It's a small ship. It's easy to search. There's not a whole hell of a lot of places to look. I am going to again give you each a setback. Oh no, sorry. I'm going to give Attikus a setback for the helmet. Eli, you obviously take no setback for that because you're used to this.
Hell yeah. All right, rolling?
Yes, please.
All right, Eli gets 1 success, 1 threat.
Nice. Okay. I got 2 advantages, 3 failures.
3 failures. All right. So, Eli, Attikus, I think you're having a bit of difficulty in, like, you're in 0G, you've got your helmet on, and you've got your arm. So I think just generally you're having difficulty navigating the cabin. It's extra frustrating for you because this kind of security check, this kind of let's make sure we're all right piece comes so naturally to you, but it's impeded by factors outside your control. Not unlike riding the bicycle, it's just like slightly outside of your comfort zone enough so that you're a little bit off your game. So unfortunately, you just kind of, I think, bumble around a little bit. You manage to make your way back to the cargo sort of holds and find that both of them are locked. But I'm upside down now. You make your way to the back. You're like, I'm going to check these things. They're locked, seemingly controlled electronically. So it's just like, it's a bust. It's a bust all the way through. You could punch through, but they're small enough that you would probably destroy what's on the other side or risk damaging it. So a whole lot of nothing for you there, sir. Eli, you rolled successes and a threat. Is that correct?
1 success, 1 threat.
1 success, 1 threat.
Yep.
Cool. So in your searching, Eli, you find that it's pretty clear, I think, to you that a lot of gear is missing. Knowing kind of what boarding actions would look like and knowing what a ship like this has, it's pretty clear that a bunch of gear went off ship and didn't come back.
Like crew gear?
Yes, like the things you would. You obviously it's I think a pretty quick looking at the bunks. There's no one in the bunks. You check the washroom. There's no one in the washroom. So then it's a matter of okay, well, if they're not here, what's up? And looking around, it's like, oh, very clearly, helmets, guns, all the things you would expect a boarding party to take are missing, with the exception of the bolt pistol that is up front.
Yeah.
In terms of the threat, I'm just going to pass that forward as a negative on the next team roll, because nothing jumps out at you. There's no Jason X is not aboard this vessel.
Good.
Just well, I mean, you haven't opened the cargo compartments yet, so who knows? But a quick cursory look suggests that this place is empty. Meanwhile, back on the Marnie's song, Valentyne, you've received a ping from Interrogator Cora requesting a parlay of sorts.
Yeah, he'd summon her to his quarters.
Great. So she enters a bit tentatively. Refresh my memory, Ryan. Had you picked up on the fact that she was high, or was that someone else on
Morgan?
board?
I had not interacted directly with her, I don't believe, other than welcoming her aboard, sending her to quarters, and that was pretty much it.
All right, great. So then I'm going to want to check from you to see how savvy you are to the state she's in. I would take Medicae or...
Perception work?
Yeah, perception works.
Dope.
Yeah.
We will go with perception. Also, if he knew she was on the way and he had that 3 to 5 minute grace period, the one thing he hasn't had time to do is sit down and look at her, her file, whatever they've got in the Inquisition, because he doesn't know that much about her, and he has had way bigger priorities than...
Totally.
What's going on with this lady? Okay, so if we're doing perception...
Well, hang on. So hold on that. We'll do your little scene of the information you received first, and then we can go ahead with the roll. So... she'd phrased it very much as when it's convenient. You get the sense that clearly Iskander has trained her well in terms of there is important shit that Inquisitors do, and you can request time, but it doesn't mean you get it necessarily. So the request is very soft as requests go, which gives you the time to check her files. There's not a whole lot. She seems to be up and coming, but relatively untested. Again, Ordo Xenos under Iskander, and as a result, well positioned. She seems to have done well in the few engagements she's been involved with. Coming from the glory hole, as some of our previous party members did, very valued for kind of how rough and tumble and inventive she is. Record shows kind of commendations for scrappiness and kind of MacGyvering solutions. She seems very determined once an idea is in her mind, which of course gives you flashbacks to Lyric. But otherwise, no huge highs and no huge lows. She strikes you, I think, honestly, Valentyne, as almost kind of where you would have ranked prior to your ship going down and being kind of battlefield raised, where it's like on paper you also looked kind of like, yeah, this guy's fine. Like there's nothing against him. He's got a good record, smart, he's good at his job, but there's nothing that's like, and then that one time he fucking blew up the Death Star. Like there's no big things on a record in terms of kind of personnel file details that you'd have access to. Because again, now you've got Inquisitor status, so you got all sorts of fun shit. Again, very driven. There is a note. There's kind of a redacted folder that you're able to access. That there is the biggest personality risks kind of on her file are headstrong. So the fact that she's so capable at MacGyvering solutions and kind of improvising that the odds of her kind of like jumping out of a plane without a chute and being like, I'll fucking figure it out are pretty high. Not that exact example, but you know what I mean? And there's also some concerns about her desire to return home. It's been noted that although she has actively tried to avoid mentioning anything about it, the sense that her instructors had and the sense that Iskander has is that like a lot of this training is to attain the position of Inquisitor to be able to wield the power and status to like extract her siblings from her home. Like serving the cause. And the catch is this would normally, like if you had a wildly self-centered objective, normally this would just like wash you out of inquisitorial duty because that's not what it's about. The problem with her is like she still absolutely like crosses every T and dots every I. So you can't argue with it. And if she were to do that, that would be well within her power. And basically everyone who has tested her has watched for like, are you only in it for this or are you actually committed to the cause? But she apparently really hates xenos, like a lot. So anyway, those are the two. It's basically like flight risk / might value something over duty and being impulsive and headstrong.
Cool.
Interestingly, the drug piece does not appear at all.
No, I mean, that all maths out with what he's seen of her, not anybody else's business. But knowing that she's undoubtedly received the report that the world was destroyed because he'd have filed it in his reports.
You both like paperwork, like it's
And he definitely would have filed that Alto and Lyric are dead, but it's pretty high up there, so he doesn't know if she'd have had access to that or not, because he's not going to like lay out the cabal. Like a lot of that shit is extremely redacted to not reported, just in the sense of like pursuing something, which is the Inquisitor's prerogative, but with enough files just coded for top.
Also, realistically, I don't think you have last names for them, so it would be like 2 names died in my service. I feel like the Inquisition's probably like, cool. Like what? 2 Uber drivers died getting you here? Well, that's a shame.
Lord Inquisitor Sabriel Graves isn't going to be like, well, I better go tell everybody about these 2 idiots he found that also didn't make it.
Did it hurt your stars rating?
I was going to say Lyric would have the worst star rating on Uber. Jesus Christ.
All
right. So then he would just invite her to the quarters.
Great. So let's go ahead with that perception check, please. And honestly, based on the information that you just got, I don't know that would change this dice roll at all.
No, he doesn't know her well enough if she's not obviously fucked up to like a stranger. Like it's.
That said, I will give you, we'll say a boost for just kind of based on your skills as an interrogator and based on kind of the way you approach people. I think the odds of you like noticing something's up are high, pun intended. But I feel like if like you scan people, and you're also highly wary of her. So I feel like you would have a thing. That said, I am going to give you one disadvantage from our previous set of rolls.
Okie dokie. And what's my difficulty?
Difficulty is 3.
Cool.
So disadvantage a setback?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Too
I
much
read it as
D&D.
Alrighty, let's see what happens. 4 successes, 1 threat.
All right.
Okay, great. So we'll do, I think, the same thing. We'll pass the threat through to whatever the next roll is. In terms of the successes, you are able to clock this. You know the symptoms of this are pretty clear. Also, I think you'd be the fact that you're looking for anything that's amiss would mean that like highly diluted pupils is like a pretty fucking clear clear thing. That said, with that many successes, I will say you also don't detect any outward animosity towards you, which would seem to confirm your theory that, no one was like, BT dubs, like, sorry your planet got blown up. Also, there's this guy who took your siblings off it. That's good. They got killed. That's bad. But they might be part of an evil monster that none of the characters know about. That's good. So she enters the small office and like deferentially bows. Despite how drugged up she is, the decorum is still absolutely present, which also I think indicates to you that like she's a habitual user to a point now where she can function under it. This isn't like an opium den, like I'm just going to zone out. It's functioning.
That's not great. Okay. Yep, he takes that in. He's like, well, you requested a meeting. Please take a seat. What can I do for you?
Yes, thank you, Inquisitor. I must admit, I don't have a tremendous amount of experience with other Inquisitors. The few missions that I've been honored enough to serve the Emperor on have mostly been under Iskander. And though I've certainly read the records and encountered other Inquisitors in my training, I must admit I've never encountered one with a countenance like yours. Your optimism. And she says it like it's a completely foreign word, which just like, again, could have just come out of Lyric's mouth because like that was a lady who did not believe in terms like that. And Cora just kind of shakes her head and says, I must admit, it tracks with the doctrine. Everything you said tracks with how I understand Imperial doctrine, but it's cheery, and I'm not entirely certain what to make of that. So if you'll indulge me, I was curious if you could tell me a bit about your philosophy and why you approach things the way you do.
It is a delight to be able to discuss this with someone with the clearance to be able to go find all the facts and add this up. So there is an overwhelming theory about the gods of the dark gods of chaos, etc., etc. We're not going to name them. You get the gist.
Oh, yes, no.
But yes, so the rough idea is that the warp, again, I've read it, not a psyker, so I'm trying to like speak another language through hieroglyphics, but the rough idea is that the warp is an echoing reflection of emotion and feelings and the actions of souls in our realm. So the very first murder, you get a special demon for it. Someone who likes to cut people's faces off, there's a demon for that. Like the more broad and wide spectrum the emotion, traditionally turbulent and violent, the larger the overall force. That's where you get, one could say, the big four are just a summation of large human experiences. Every instinctive rage and murder and homicide, blood god. Broken down into the armies of lesser demons as they continue, but adding up to the overall force. My theory, and has been presented by a number of knowledgeable psychers over time, is that we, the Imperium, and specifically the Emperor, are a response to that. You may notice there are no demons of happiness. There are no demons of good cheer. There are no demons of politeness. There are no demons of order or honor or nobility or kindness.
Or hope.
Correct. Very, very correct. False hope, yes, they do love to play that, but it's because it leads into despair again. But that would mean all positive emotions don't fuel the warp. Everything else does. The darker you go, the stronger they get. The lighter you go, the weaker they are, And, as is my personal belief, the stronger is the Emperor. If everyone would just cheer the chug up, we'd all be doing so much better. So all I say is we need to keep things positive. We need to understand that challenges are placed in front of us because the Emperor has put them there, and then we just need to move forward.
You know, there are a lot of different xenos, and I was a little bit, how to put this tactfully, dismissive, I suppose, of your Ordos. Some of the other Ordos as well, thinking, oh, you only have 4 big problems to deal with. That's a hell of a lot easier than all of the subspecies, the undiscovered species, the weapons they have, the way they travel. I mean, no one talks about it enough, but the Tau are a big fucking problem. Have you seen their... Anyway.
I've read. It's bad.
The weapons are unheard of. If our forges could produce them, we'd be in better state, but we would never sink to their level. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I had not ever heard the warp described in such terms, nor the Emperor's glory described in such terms. It makes a lot of sense. I do question, though, you mentioned that when the Emperor gives us what we need in order to combat this darkness, in order to push back against it with feelings, if we could all just cheer up, the chug up, as you put it. Yet, if we follow that doctrine, the Emperor also takes everything from some of us, and yet we are asked to greet that loss as you have described it, with cheer and with a step. We've both read the reports of exactly how many psychers go down in order to keep his golden throne running, and of course their sacrifice means little compared to the life of the Emperor. But I doubt they are smiling as they are fed to the flames. So, when one has everything burnt away, in the name and the glory of the Emperor, how do you move forward with that?
Well, you serve a greater purpose beyond yourself. The idea of loss is the idea of ownership. The idea that you were brought into this place so you could own land, or people, or feelings, and that you are the center of humanity. We are not. We are a large mass. We are here to help keep that mass heading in the right direction. And after we die, there are 2 options. We commune with the Emperor and build a brighter future that keeps humanity together, or we are devoured and torn apart by the gibbering masses of the warp for eternity. Frankly, the Emperor is a much better deal, both for the people who are alive and for those who are dead. There are archaic ideas of heaven. The idea of, living out our lives again in a better place forever with no conflict, playing harps, singing. That's fine. But there's no purpose.
Sounds like an awful nursery rhyme for idiot children.
I feel the same way. I can't believe old people believed in this. It's just, why? Sitting on a cloud for eternity. Ugh.
Also, in no corner of this universe does a place like that exist. We have established this.
Yes.
There's a grim darkness to this place.
And a delightful golden purpose. We can commune with the Emperor because the Emperor is not just his own being. Logically, we have to balance the forces of the warp. And there are the grand gods, but there are demi-legions of those below them. And working together is what gives them their tremendously insidious power. Because if they can tear a soul to the darkness, it joins their army. But if a soul can stay in the light, it dances with the Emperor. And it is not just one monolithic being burning away the other. It is an army. It is a legion. It is an imperium of man, not just of the physicality, but of the soul. We lose nothing. We gain so much by giving it.
I suppose my final question then, Inquisitor, and she's got a tear in her eyes, she says this. But she says, I suppose my final question then, Inquisitor, is, in this army, do they have titans? Because I know someone who I think would very much like to drive one.
Well, the Emperor also happens to be the omnisire of the machine god, and there have been countless loyal engines lost over time. And that means machine spirits are on the right side of history. So yes, there would be Titans. The only fear you would need to have is if you felt that those you had lost were lost without purpose and without a belief in the Emperor. Do you believe those you lost had no faith?
I have to believe that they believed in a servant of the Emperor, if not the Emperor himself, someone who left to gain the necessary means to assist them to enact the Emperor's purpose. Where I come from, the Emperor was not as clearly defined as you would know him and his glory, as I now know him and his glory. But I have to believe they had faith in me, and if they had faith in me, they have faith in the Emperor, for I am not but a tool of his will. So, if they believed I would return, then yes, I believe they had that grace. I have to believe that, I suppose. Thank you, Inquisitor. This has been very illuminating.
Yes.
And with all of the effort in her body, she grins. And it is not a pleasant grin. But damn it, she's trying. And with that, she bows and takes her leave.
Just a moment, if you want to sit for a second. I've read your file. I have been to Galen's glory. I do not know what you know of me, but I was there at the end.
Oh, that poker face is fucking gone. She rushes the table, and you can see a bit more of the drug effect now as she kind of leans across. She's not leaping across the table at you, just hands on the table. What do you know?
The world was lost. But what I can tell you is that your two siblings, Alto and Lyric, left that world with me. They served alongside me. They chased the cabal that we ourselves are now chasing. They were lost in that attempt through a combination of DARP warpcraft and xenos attention. Almost a balancing scale, as though it were you and I. And so I seek to avenge them. But I know that they died with purpose. I know that they died for the cause we now share. I know that they died for the future of humanity. And I know that their souls are on the side of the Emperor. At least one of them.
And she kind of actually legitimately smiles, half smiles, tragically half smiles at that and says, yes, I suspect the other one's up there driving his Titan.
Yes. That one, I am very sure, is driving a Titan. The other was lost in a plane crash. Was lost after physical corruption. I assume she died there. A tragic loss. But her soul was pure up until that moment, and we can hope that only her body was corrupted. Should she have survived it, then we will hunt her down and grant her absolution.
Did they know I was coming back?
I don't know. They spoke fondly of you. I can confirm this.
Did they, Ryan?
They never said anything fucking bad about her, from what I can remember.
Fair enough. All right, I won't make you roll for it then. That's fair. That's a fair sin of omission. I'll take it. So that she kind of nods and is barely containing a tremendous amount of emotion, and just kind of through gritted teeth says, "Thank you, Inquisitor. This is useful information." And then just turns on her heel and books it. It's less the formal stride she had, and more kind of a tearing down the hall kind of situation, leaving you alone in your office, but unburdened of a dark secret. And I'm not sure if you're any closer to knowing whether or not you've tipped the scale on her future. You've previously described some fear that she may end up as part of your vision that you'd previously seen.
Yeah, he's weighed the odds, and the conversation was interesting. She is, at this point, a tremendous liability. which is why he does not send a message to Morgan being like, we got to call off the murder plot. This is the like, we're going to quietly test this woman to see if she can get her shit together, or I will put a bolt in her head myself and shove her out an airlock, because the lack of belief in the Emperor and the idea that the Emperor took things from her, that's a hot fucking coal. Up until this, she was someone who like bad shit had happened to. And Valentyne can understand that bad shit affects other people because they're not as strong as he is and they don't have as much understanding of the way the universe works.
They don't have that song in their heart.
Yeah. But now it's like she's an addict, which he does not appreciate or have empathy for in interrogators. Any general member of the population, he understands that it's a thing that they're chasing, will have to fight. But like, you can't be lining up to be the I get to push a button and the world explodes, and also be like, I got emotional and now have stumbled into a level of addiction that's like messing with my duties. So between that and the borderline heresy that was just presented in this room to him, he's like, I'm going to try to coach you back to the right side, but you got like a week, motherfucker.
Also, like, what is this, like, person's rank that they know about, like, the Emperor and the Psychers sacrifice to him? Like, that's not common knowledge.
She's an interrogator, so she'd have access.
Yeah.
Last Gleaming is a leaky sieve of inquisitorial knowledge.
Oh, yeah, that's
because
true.
there's a lot of people who have very, very high clearance. A lot of people who don't have high clearance, but they all drink in the same places, and word kind of gets around. It's like one of the things I like playing with the Imperium particularly is like the further and further and further you get away from Terra, people just set up like it gets easier and easier to create your own like little web of safety where it's like, well, no one's going to fucking tell anyone if we just talk about it out here. Of course we have a Beastman doctor who gives a shit. Like it's that level of like things are a little bit more lax.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love the longevity of people in the Imperium where it's like, this person's been alive for 1,000 years. They're barely sentient anymore, but we've kept them going. And it's like, do you really believe that guy isn't fucking just walking around being like, what about the psycho sacrifice? And it's like, shh, Barry, stop. Oh, sorry, shit. I mean, JK. And then he like toddles away. So
yeah. Also, she was
no one told her officially, but
she was also an interrogator to a Lord Inquisitor subsector, which is very different than being just like a field interrogator. Because like you got the library, you have access to all the files that are there. She probably would know more than most Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Being that position
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally just like the White House aides, where it's just like you're just technically a political aide, but you happen to be an aide in the White House, and as a result, but yeah, don't worry, she'll probably end up with a bolt in her head anyway, so it's not going to matter. But so good. So Valentyne, you've got kind of your your kind of benchmark for this. We cut back to the Iron Kestrel, where Attikus, you are just pinwheeling around, just bumping into things, just our sweet 0G boy. But Eli, you've had more success. You've determined that the remaining 3 crew members are not aboard. And that's about it. So the second thing you said you want to do was turn things back on. For that, I would like a tech use.
Okay. Tech use.
Tech use.
All right. Got that set up. Okie dokie. And what difficulty would you like, sir?
I'm going to say difficulty 3 because this thing is a piece of shit machine.
That's fair. Can I use anything? No, all my talents are combat related.
So you can use a threat I saved for you.
Yes, you can have that. You can shoot it with your shotgun. Eli, I will give you one.
I do. I get a setback, right?
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to give you a boost, just because I think this isn't something you do a lot, but this is the space like the breach and clear equivalent of learning to change a spare tire.
Right.
So you're not the best in the world at this, but it's also not your first rodeo. Like you would have at least studied the manual, but based on the drills that we observed you do like one session ago, I think maybe you've had a kick at this before.
Okay. Let's just go for it. Let's see what happens. Oh no. Should have done more. 1 failure, 2 threats.
All right. So you flick the switch, and there's kind of a pulse of energy that travels through, but it's a little bit like when a generator is shorting. It's that like low electric, like, immediately panels begin to break and shatter on the thing. You realize that so there's some damage, some critical damage to the ship, and by turning on the instruments, basically the guts of this ship are quickly tearing themselves apart.
Yeah.
Immediately the claxons start going off. Attikus, because you're in prime floating position, you can see just kind of a brief. You spend enough time with Grimly now, I think, to understand like what warnings in a ship might mean. You can see that the engine is critically damaged and inoperable. So it's possible this ship was shut down in order to prevent the engine from exploding. And unfortunately, now that someone who shall remain nameless has turned it back on, there's a power surge coursing throughout the ship, which basically means that the two of you have an action or maybe two to stop the ship you're in from exploding. So what do you do?
Gosh, what can I do? I mean, Atticus's instinct is to destroy the engine.
Okay.
If Eli can think of something more clever than that, because we won't have any power after that solution, that's up to Eli. But Attikus is going to try and make his way over to the engine with the intention of.
Does he radio Eli to say this, or does he just go?
No, he's just going. That's the thing. Is he's like
just imagining little awkward swims and arm flails until you can get a proper handhold.
If he can get to the engine, that'll be when he says like, he'll have gone on the radio actually, so everyone can hear. Is like, we've triggered some kind of power surge here. I'm making my way to the engine now. Once he arrives, I'm at the engine, preparing to destroy it.
Just cut the relays.
What are those?
Attikus, if you see any tubes or cables coming out of the engine, cut those. Don't hit the engine, it'll explode.
Right. Here we are. And I will just start.
All right, give me. This is a new one for you. It's going to be a melee brawn. I don't know how you're going to manage.
We'll see.
Yeah, so, you're attacking an inanimate vehicle. How are you ever going to do this?
So I am going to give you difficulty on this. I think based on your like anti-vehicle armor piece, this would be a pretty easy one to just skip the roll on, with the exception of the fact that they've basically just yelled at you to be like, cut the red wire, not the blue wire. But if there's several shades of red, just get the one that's the most scarlet. And you're like, okie dokie. So the difficulty will actually...
No, Tom. It's like there's a box and there's wires coming out of it. Cut any of the wires.
I'm sorry, what engines do you know that just have a box of fucking wires sticking out? Because if that's your engine, you need to get it checked out.
Yeah.
The wires are not exposed.
That's how our car works. There's a box and then the wires.
All right. Well,
exactly.
Look, I drive a Flintstone car, so I don't fucking know. All right. I got a mouthy ass bird who acts as the horn, and I stick my feet through the bottom and run real fast so that we can go get our giant, drive-in
steak.
rib
That's what that was.
thing.
It's a brontosaurus steak.
Gross. They have a brontosaurus in their house. They're monsters. Anyway, we are in the far future, not the ancient past. No, there aren't just like a bunch of fucking cut me wires sticking out like a bad VR game. You're going to have to rip a bunch of shit out of a wall, and I'm going to roll to see if you are nimble enough with those fingies to not rip everything out of the wall.
Sure.
If you have a problem with it, Eli, I'll fucking space you.
Space Laura, leave Eli alone. He has nothing to do with this.
Leave Eli alone.
Respectfully. What is the difficulty of this check?
Oh, there we go. You see, isn't that nice? The difficulty is only 3.
Okay.
But that's, again, to account for, like, big arm, ripping into wall and then digging through wall to try and find which cables to tear.
Okay.
I used up all of Laura's dice on the ship about to explode, so we will say no setbacks from that. That's baked into the difficulty.
Nice.
You get your vehicle armor pierce thing is 2. I'm going to give that to you as bonus dice because there's technically there's no armor here, but you should get some benefit from that.
Okay.
Story point situation is 2 and 3 in my favor. I'm going to spend 1 to crank it up.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And that is it from me.
Rolling. 2 successes. 7 advantages.
Holy fuck!
I'd like to pass the savings on to you.
All right, great.
It turns out it was a box with some wires.
Yeah, he rips through the wall and inside it's just like clearly labeled individual. It's like hospital corridors where it's like red, this does this. This is the coolant wire. You don't want this one. This is the main cable.
Case of emergency, cut here.
Yeah, there's just like a Fallout Pip-Boy guy with scissors. But obviously he's got a servo skull and an Aquila on him because 40K. Yeah, great. So Attikus, easy peasy. You can very clearly see which one to pull. You tear it effortlessly out, and sure enough, the power surging sound stops almost immediately. All of the emergency lights turn off, and you're kind of plunged into darkness. Aside from, I assume like these suits. It's funny, like EVA suits are always in my head, just like the Star Trek First Contact ones. They're like kind of bulky and have like little flashlights. So you've got, external flashlights in addition to the ones that light your mug, so that we can see you in the movie version. Presumably they've got like metal and spikes on them because but yeah, so you've got limited light kind of coming off of you, but now you're plunged into spoopy darkness.
Would this ship have like a black box? Is that a thing? Like, can we pull a chunk of this?
Yeah,
out
you
over
can
to
bring
our ship
this, like you can bring circuit boards and shit
data?
with you. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
If we'd gone one more round, then the circuits would have been fried, and then the following round the ship explodes. So you can still rip shit out of.
Sweet.
Yeah, you can take it with you and power it up over there. Grimly would best be able to power it up over there, or you're gonna have some words for him, presumably.
Yeah.
Colonel Viss, could we confirm that you are still alive?
Yes, sir. Confirmed. Managed to cut the power in time. I propose we excavate the captain's terminal, bring it over to Marnie's Song, power it there, and get our information that way.
Excellent. You have 1 hour at most.
Understood, sir. And Attikus has one tool for all of these jobs and is basically looking at the captain's console to basically like scoop it out with his massive hands.
Look, it's not like it's a bunch of exposed captain's console wires just sticking out with information. Yeah. No, this is easy enough. Like, particularly with an hour, like you go over, you tin can opener the front console. And I think it's literally just like looking for circuit boards and that sort of thing. But yeah, the equivalent of a black box, just because it is 40K technology, it is like jagged and weird.
Blackest box.
Truly. Eli, what are you doing while Attikus is doing this?
Is there anywhere else like in the cruise area where there might have been, oh no, you said everything was taken. I'm just wondering if there's any other sources of information that would be useful.
You do have the 2 locked cargo spaces that with an hour you could probably force your way.
Yeah, I definitely want to know what's in those. I mean, what they're carrying should tell us something about, what the hell they're up to.
Cool. So I also feel like that's something you could be like, hey, Attikus, can you punch through this wall, please?
With pleasure.
So you take a break from scooping stuff, and I think for the purposes of like having not powered these, you're only going to get 1 in the amount of time. 1, Attikus, you punch through it, and it just like inverts and slowly flies off into space. But the other one, you're able to kind of like crank and tear open, and out of it drifts a bunch of scrap metal. So Attikus, you go back to kind of taking out the black box. Eli, you basically have a number of large chunks. You can almost think like almost like the hood of a car sized pieces of metal that just kind of like slowly float out towards you. There's a wide variety of different pieces. In some ways, it almost looks like someone knocked over like a junk box in here.
Yeah. Like human-made junk?
Yes, very much. Yeah. And heavy duty metal.
Yeah.
You shining your light across this sort of like car hood thing that's just bounced off of you. You see it's stenciled with the letters NS3.
NS3.
Yes, NS-3.
Okay.
And the just a cursory look at it, there's heavy scorch marks on one edge of it that looks like it was...
Yeah, so I can probably assume that this is from like a vessel they destroyed.
It's from a destroyed vessel, yeah. And this is definitely like las cannon fire.
Okay.
This is like a las cannon battery did this.
Any other markings, numbers, serial numbers?
you're just kind of like, I think now sorting through this stuff. I will say in the time it takes Attikus to dig everything out, you can haul all of this back. It's kind of hard because again you're in a dark space, like shining a light on the stuff. So
well, it's a cargo hold. There's got to be some netting. I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do something,
you make yourself like a weird
little,
Grinch sack.
Weirdly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We all had a sneaky sack in mind. It's good. So you're able to gather it up pretty easily. And again, these are large. Even the bits that look like like a spark plug are still like the size of your arm. Like it's very much wreckage from a ship. And I think from what you gather as you're putting this, just like putting it in the bag before really having a deeper inspection, all of it is very almost monochrome. Like it's not fancy by any stretch. This is like unpainted metal. This is very, very industrial style stuff. There's not a lot of embellishment. It's very kind of rough.
Yep. Functional. Didn't need. Okay.
100%. All right. So you get your sack of stuff together. Attikus, you manage to get the black box together, and the two of you are ready to make your way back. Which of course brings us to Eli. You've got to see if you can pocket this bottle on the way. You now conveniently have a large thing you can stow it in, but you'll also have to secret it out of that on the way out.
Do I have a pocket like on my leg or on my torso?
Not that's big
pouch?
enough for a full, like you could zip it into your thing. You just have to expose yourself to vacuum. So,
Jesus.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Otherwise it's like you're trying to steal like a 2 liter of Coke in your pocket at the grocery store. It's not impossible, but it is highly improbable.
But it is very Florida.
I brought this Coke from home.
Oh, that's tricky. I think he would want to almost play it off as like taking it openly and being like, for the I think because he can't. I don't think he can do this secretly. He knows he can't do it secretly. If it goes with like the scrap metal bits, it's not like he's got like a bunch of bubble wrap to like cover it in. So he like, grabbing onto walls and such, just goes over to the captain's body, takes it, looks at Attikus and be like, for a special occasion, and kind of like shakes it at him. And then,
well, let's see if there's an and then. Attikus, how do you respond to that?
Yeah. For a special occasion, we're on a mission. The Inquisitor will know what to do with everything we bring over. I'll be sure to note that as well.
All right, I guess the Inquisitor's gonna enjoy a special occasion then. Whatever, it's getting on the ship.
And with
Baby
that,
steps. Baby steps.
Yeah. We'll sort out the rest later.
it's a sound policy on any salvage mission. With that, the two of you make your way back over to Marnie's song to further examine the mysteries that you've recovered from the Iron Kestrel. As Grimly Moody pings you, Inquisitor, to inform you that he has the coordinates of the help me repeating signal deep within the asteroid belt.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Attikus Viz, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Eli Sharp, Del Borovic at Deltastic on Twitter as Morgan Rawls, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com, DELBOROVIC. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. The Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Sammy Boy, Orion Birchfield, Scott Garland, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Acrix, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Austin Nut Powers Fry, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Roman Brown, Shulzari, Christian Mendez, Spot Allen, Flynn 1138, Alarain Okapi, OMG It's Big Nick, Steve Wees, D&D and Things, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.